Welcome back everyone to another episode of Minecraft Better Than Adventure. Today we're doing yet another small project. This time around we're doing the church that I mentioned in the last episode. If you're wondering, the reason that I'm having to do smaller projects is mostly because of time. Now that winter break has been officially over for a week now, I've realized that I really don't have much time to do all of this. I'm juggling two series at once, both Foundations and Better Than Adventure, and I can't do grandiose builds anymore. I have to go more smaller scale and make more progress off camera because I just can't do larger builds anymore. So with that being said, let's get into the sign wall. First up is Oculus, then Patchy MC, Mateo Lion SK, Sota, Merv71, Dazblade, Steve Dumb, Snail Badnick Enjoyer, The Desolator, Love Dust, and Crit Hall. A huge thank you to these 11 people for watching until the end of last episode. You guys are amazing as always. Right, so as I said in the beginning, today we are going to be getting into building the church that I mentioned last episode. This church is another original design of mine. I kind of just tried to think of a classic village church, not a classic Minecraft village church, more like a classic medieval village church, like the ones that I've seen in some animes. In here, I've gathered all the materials that I thought I would need, and I've built a platform over here. The terraforming still needs some work. Right now, it's just a basically large flat pyramid. However, right now, the main focus is the build that's going to go on top of it right here. I had to build my own area here and cover up the area that's beneath here, and that's because I literally couldn't find anywhere I could fit this church in this village. By the way, I still need some ideas for the different houses. If you have any, I would appreciate them in the comments below. Right, so with that being said, I'm going to get the stuff that I need to start building. Starting here, this is the door, and this is the side. If you're curious, right now I'm looking at my reference image that I took in my creative test world. This is going to be a very frustrating one for me to build, mostly because even though it's a mirrored image, I've still made it really odd. I kind of winged it in my creative test world, kind of getting the foundation to start with. I keep forgetting that for this stuff I need to commentate. Honestly, even though we're building more in this episode, this video is going to be a rather short one, and I apologize for that. You know what? With just this part laid out, you can actually kind of see how it's a church, which is kind of funny because the more I add to it, the more and more it'll look less like a church. As it gets dark here, I'm actually reminded that there is a bed right over here because this is one of the many inns that we built in the village. Oh, and if you didn't notice off camera, I switched back to the diamond pick for now, and that's not because the other one broke. That's just because I realized this one was much faster, and with the amount of time I have right now, I figured it'd just be better to switch back to this one. There we go, that's the first window. Then it goes like this. Kinda ironic that I'm referencing my own design more than I am any of the tutorials that I followed. I have to admit, this is still really hard to build though. Like, I'm sure I made this a lot more complicated than it needed to be. My god, is this really confusing to build. Alright, now this is where it starts getting recognizable as a church. This is what makes it a church right here. Most classic medieval churches have some sort of cross at the top, right? So it kind of makes sense that this one would right here. You know, I don't know how I did it last episode. Last episode I managed to get enough commentary in 30 minutes for a 9-minute video. This time around though, I'm only managing to get enough commentary in for maybe a 5-minute video, so I'm really sorry to you guys. Hopefully I can make it longer somehow. Not exactly sure how I'll do it, but I'm sure with some simple black magic editing it won't be too hard. Okay, now's where we get into the walls. That actually wasn't too complicated to cover. Now we've got the sort of outside done. I always think of churches of having a lot of windows, so if you're wondering, that's why I've added so many windows in here. I sort of tried to use the stone brick as a foundation and the cobble as a main thing. I could have made it out of wood like I did all of these houses, but I just felt it was right for the church to be made of cobble while the houses were made of wood. It just feels like a churchy sort of thing, you know? The way I made the roof of this building is very odd. I'm not exactly sure where I got the inspiration from this. Just sort of how a roof for this sort of thing comes to mind for me for some reason. I'm also not exactly sure how high up I went, but I believe it was this high. I've got everything that I need to build right here, and yet every single time I always forget to grab something. So while I build this, the only thing that I have on my mind right now is anime, because I found this random anime that I spent all day watching. And yes, that does mean that I'm once again recording this video pretty late. I spent all day day watching this anime about this guy that was kicked out of the hero party, but it wasn't like a normal kicked out of the hero party and then proves himself to be OP sort of thing. It was more like he was kicked out of the hero party and then he built an apothecary. An apothecary? Anyways, he built that. We can use what's left of our brown wooden blocks here to make stairs. There's always one block left over whenever I make stairs. It really annoys me. Always one spruce block, one wood block. It's always one block left over because it's an odd number. Looking at this from the front, it's looking like a church so far, at least to me. I might be a bit biased, so let me know what you guys think. Do you guys think this looks like a church so far? Also, let me know if you guys have ever been to a church like this. I know a lot of people nowadays that are religious, if at all, go to more modern churches. But have you ever been to like a really old-fashioned church? There's that side of the church done, this part of the church is done, and this part of the church is done. It's not exactly the most appeasing looking church, and it took me a lot less time to build than I thought it would. However, I do think it turned out well. It definitely looks more appeasing from this angle than it does from the front, I have to say. From this angle, you can almost tell that this is supposed to be one of those small churches. I've now officially crafted a door. I think I want to make the inside, want to make the floor just wooden planks. You know, the church has a very dark basement underneath it, now that I think about it, that I didn't really take into account when I was gonna build this floor here. I guess if you guys have any ideas for a church basement, maybe let me know in the comments below, because there is a huge empty area here hidden underneath all of the terraining that I did to build this church here. So yeah, if you have any ideas for a church basement or interesting thing underneath the church, let me know. I know that a lot of animes and fiction in general, they always put something in the basement of a church. I also wanted to start making the chairs. Yeah, you know what? The more we walk up on this, the more I think it looks exactly like how I thought it would, so not bad. Though we will have to do something about this. I think this will just have to end up being a facade. There we go. That looks like one of those things that a pastor would stand in front of. And then what I'm thinking is I'm gonna put the stairs here. I overestimated the amount of materials I would need to create this, honestly. There we go. That should work for lighting. So with that being said, that's going to be it for this episode. I've unfortunately ran out of time. I'm sorry that this episode was so short. If you made it this far into the video, comment church in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye!